Yo, what's up? Real Homies Wanna Know is back at it, and we are on episode number 18. Today, it's gonna be all about National Caregivers Month, so stay tuned.
Real homies wanna know.
Real homies wanna know. Real homies wanna know.
Real homies wanna know.
Alright, so y'all, November is National Caregivers Month. So we want to recognize all of the caregivers out there. We want to just clap it up for you because you're doing something that a lot of people can never imagine. And you're doing it to the best of your abilities. So, woo, woo. But I also got a chance to sit down with my homie, Ashley, also known as the Dementia Guru. And she's got a lot of experience with working with caregivers and also acting in that role as well. So, let's get to it. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so my name is Ashley and I am the Dementia Guru, and I am a gerontologist and social worker, and I absolutely love working in the field of aging and working with family caregivers and older adults and people who are living with dementia. That is my passion. That is my heart. I have had personal experiences in my family as a caregiver and experience with dementia as well. And then on a professional side, I've also been a caregiver and worked in this field for over 12 years now. So I know that it's my calling, it's my heart, and it's a privilege and an honor to work in this field. So thanks for having me today.
Glad you're here. So yeah, guys, she has a blog titled The Dementia Guru, and there's so much good information on there, and it's so colorful and just like boom, you know. Love the page.
Thank you.
So.
You're my faves too. I feel the same. Like when I go to your page, it's just bright and inviting, and it's like we can be excited about talking about aging. So it's awesome.
Right. It's all about delivery. I think when it's delivered in like a fun way, then people are able to receive it better and retain what's being shared. So yeah.
So there's currently about 48 million caregivers nationwide. And so I think that's huge. Like we don't talk about how many actual caregivers there are. And caregiving in so many different roles. Could be caregiving for an older parent, could be caregiving for a spouse, could be caregiving for a sibling, an older adult who is a sibling. So there's different types of caregiving roles, but over 48 million Americans are currently in the role of a caregiver. And then 16 million of that number are dementia family caregivers. And so that's pretty big too. We've got a lot of family caregivers who are caring for a family member or a loved one who has a diagnosis of dementia. And I know you and I talk about it a lot, and I talk about it on my platform. Dementia is the 5th leading cause of death right now in the United States, and it's a huge need to raise awareness and increase support for people living with dementia and their caregivers. Yeah. Because caregivers are just, they're doing it all. You know, they're really doing a lot of work to be able to maintain quality of life for their loved ones. So 16 million dementia family caregivers and 10 million millennial caregivers. Whew, right? And we're millennials.
I was just about to say, we're millennials. Like I could not imagine doing this every single day by myself, but there are so many of us millennials and then people in general who have to do it on a daily basis while also working or also taking care of children. I'm like, oh my God, like I cannot imagine having to do that.
at Millennial Caregivers, they are, like you said, they're also working. So they're trying to balance this role of caregiving, working, raising a young family. And so all of these different roles that they have, and then you add the layer of being a caregiver to that. Ooh, I gotta give it to them. They're really doing it, and they're doing it with a lot of grace. So cheers to Millennial Caregivers. Honestly, this, from my standpoint, I feel that we are all going to be caregivers. Either we are currently caregivers now, or we are going to see the caregiving role in our future. And so it's important to raise awareness about what that caregiving role looks like, what the needs are, how to support family caregivers, and funding for resources and services to support family caregivers. So I really think it's critical for us to recognize that now, even if we aren't in the role yet, because at some point we will be. So kind of start thinking about our future and preparing to care. They're amazing. I don't have a better word for it, but caregivers are compassionate. They are resilient, they are dedicated, they're selfless, they're giving their all, and it's time that we honor them and we shine a spotlight on them so bright for what they are doing to care for their loved ones, which also contributes to our society and the wellness of our society as well.
I honestly believe that if there wasn't a month where we recognize caregivers, I don't think they really give themselves credit for what they do. Some people don't even acknowledge themselves as a caregiver. It's just like, oh, it's this thing you just jump in and you start doing.
Yeah.
Whether it's like, let me go get grocery. I'm gonna start bringing you grocery every week. Oh, I'm gonna start cleaning up around the house every week for you because you can't get around. And you just slowly get into this that
Yes.
you don't even realize I'm a caregiver. And then if someone brings it to your attention, you may still feel like, no, I'm just doing what I have to do. Like, no, like acknowledge it, and then also give yourself credit for stepping up to the plate and just doing what you gotta do, to take care of someone that you love.
That's such a good point that you bring up. I feel like a lot of the caregivers that I do work with, that's the main thing that they say is that I never even saw myself or even view myself as a caregiver, but they are doing everything even more than just caregiving. So it's like helping them to understand what their role is, how to make sense of that. And then, like you said, recognizing that, okay, I am in this role. It's not just something that I do. Just in general, we're just unique and special. But millennial caregivers are really unique because they are the most diverse demographic of caregivers. So we know that caregiving spans across multiple generations, like baby boomers are caregivers, silent generation are caregivers, Generation X, Generation Z, the younger generation, they are also starting to become caregivers in their early 20s. But for millennials, we happen to be the most diverse. And so there's a lot of Black millennial caregivers who are caring for a parent or a loved one. There's a lot of LGBT family caregivers who are caring for their loved ones who are millennials. So we really are a diverse group of caregivers.
If I had to become a caregiver today, I honestly don't know where to start. Like, what do I need to have in place? What are things I should know about the person I may have to care for, as far as like, who their physicians are, what all is going on with them medically, like just all of these things. It's like, where would I start? What are the important, documents that I should be aware of? I should know are handy. Preparation is key, and I feel that, at least in the back of my mind, knowing should anything ever happen, this is what I need to do. these are some of the steps I need to take. These are the resources that I should make sure I have access to.
Mm-hmm. And that's such a good point, because I think a lot of caregivers, they're not thinking, oh, I'm going to become a caregiver. It just happens, and then it's reactive, it's crisis mode, and you're just adjusting. But if we could get in the mindset of preparing to care and actually having the tough conversations, because preparing to care means you're going to sit down and have conversations about finances. You're going to have conversations about end of life and measures that relate to end of life and advanced care directives. And those conversations are not the easiest. They're not the most comfortable, but it's a gift if you know that information, if you know what your loved one wants, what their wishes are.
And it can work, to everyone's benefit, to sit down and just be like, look, I'm getting older, you're getting older. If something happens, what's up?
Usually, if you have multiple people in your support network, then you have a little bit more of flexibility and choices and people who to kind of delegate, okay, this is your task, or this is what I would need you for if this happened to me. So when you develop that support system, that support network, that helps you to be able to then have some of those choices and plan those things out with your team, your people.
To be mindful that you may have other people out there who would be willing to step in. It's just gonna have to be you having the courage and possibly, ignoring your pride and just saying, look, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I need you to come over and do this and that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's another angle of as far as looking at all of this and, should we get in that situation, or if you're already in that situation, is making sure that you're not counting people out. Because I can do that at times, just in general.
You don't.
I'm struggling, but did I think maybe I should ask somebody for help? No, I just keep struggling by myself and I never tell anyone. Then you start getting upset and you're just like, nobody helped me. But you didn't.
Right. Nobody helped me. My family's not here. And sometimes that is the case. Like you said, there are interesting family dynamics and families that are not able to get it together, or maybe it's just one person and there is not a sibling or any other family members that can contribute. But in other cases where there are family members and neighbors and friends and church groups and support groups, there are people that you can think to start reaching out to and saying, hey, you know what? Could you pick up dinner for us tonight because I'm so stressed? Not always that people don't want to help, but it's that they don't know how to help, especially when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's care. They kind of back away and just disappear because I think they're fearful of what the unknown is and not knowing what to say to that person. So they kind of disappear or back away. But it doesn't mean that they don't necessarily want to help. They might just need some guidance from that caregiver to say, hey, I need your help on this time, this day. This is what I need. I'm struggling. And again, the caregiver giving themselves permission to ask for help.
I keep going back to this pride thing because I feel like that's real strong in the Black community. This whole I'm strong and I can do this. I gotta have someone else step in. I'm weak. Looking past that and acknowledging that this is an area that's new to you, or this is an area that's uncomfortable, or this is an area that drains you.
Yes.
Being like, you know what? Let me break down and go ahead and call what's the name and be like, hey.
Yeah.
Help.
And like you're saying, in our community, we are also really private. So it's private matters. We don't talk about that in public. And the thing about that is, okay, sure, maybe that's how we operate in some situations, but we cannot operate like that with caregiving because it takes a village. You cannot do it alone. And it's the unknown too, where you don't know what to expect sometimes. And so navigating that by yourself, it can be detrimental to the caregiver's health too.
You don't even know how long you're gonna be doing this, you know, so you can't look at this like this is just gonna be a couple months. I thought that about this whole pandemic, you know what I'm saying? And here we are.
Right, here we are.
So you gotta keep that in mind when you have this whole mindset of, I'm gonna be able to do this by myself. A lot of times, actually, caregivers ignore their needs and what it is that can help them, and like health issues and all this other stuff. So you also be mindful of you and what's gonna help you. How do you need to take care of yourself?
And self-care is, you know, the hot topic buzzword right now, and self-care looks different for everybody, and we have to honor that. That's perfectly fine. But self-care for the caregiver is so important because it contributes to their well-being overall, emotional well-being, their mental well-being, their spiritual well-being, their physical well-being. So self-care isn't just, you know, oh, let's go get your nails done. You know, it's also doing other activities that help to nourish the soul of the caregiver so that they can continue on with their caregiving role. And I know for a lot of caregivers, they're like, don't talk to us about self-care. Like, like you don't get it. You don't know that this is tough. We don't have time for that. And I understand that. I do understand that it's a struggle. But I still am an advocate and proponent of self-care, and still want to encourage those caregivers to do little things, little daily activities, mindsets, things that they say to themselves, ways of thinking that they can start to incorporate into their daily routine that help to build up their mental capacity, their emotional well-being, and going to the doctor to get their checkups and making sure that they're physically healthy to be able to continue on with their caregiving role. Self-care doesn't have to be like a huge event or a huge break or respite. It can be little things that we all do in our daily lives that help to bring a little bit of sunshine, like you said.
Yeah, I just need a little teeny piece, you know, just to get me through them days. I can't. That's too much. This much.
Right. Just learning how to actually step up into this, I like to say, advocate role, where the millennial caregiver now is that advocate for their loved one. I've heard this often where people say, you're now the parent for your parent or the parent of your parent. I don't know if I agree with that, but you do have to kind of almost, the roles feel like they're reversing. Yeah. And so the millennial caregiver stepping up into this role where they are now in a role that takes on more responsibility, and they are the advocate for their loved one. And so that advocacy is difficult, especially if you're in the physician's office and you're trying to make sure everything is right and everything is correct and the physician understands your needs. You have to kind of step up as that advocate and make sure that they take you seriously. Just because you're younger does not mean that you don't know what your needs are as a caregiver and what your loved one's needs are. That also transitions into their work role, stepping up in that position and letting their employer know, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm balancing work and caregiving and raising a family and my personal life. I need flexibility.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that I read with reference to millennial caregivers is that they rarely share what they have going on in the home. So a lot of times the employer does not even know that this individual has taken on a new role at home that can be time consuming and also, take a lot out of the individual. So it is important to just be like, look, this is what I have on. And I know that there are some employers that refuse to be understanding of that. And I don't necessarily know how to resolve that issue, but
that's that's a policy change, I think.
Right. And I don't know. I haven't looked far into it. But maybe there is some type of a movement that would need to take place to push employers to change their policies and make room for individuals who are caregivers to, take care of their loved ones. I know I saw something, I think it was AARP, that listed some of the companies that have made changes like that, but it's not everywhere.
Yes.
Too many people end up becoming unemployed because of inflation, you know what I mean?
In response to AARP, they have what they call their age-friendly initiative across the nation, similar to the dementia-friendly initiative across the nation, where they are trying to create communities, businesses, and places of employment with more opportunity for older adults, more inclusion of older adults and their caregivers and their families, and employment and socialization. So I know they're doing a lot of work in these things that we're talking about and trying to advocate for supporting those caregivers.
Especially like you have this career, you really love it. And it's like, well, dang, I can't choose. I can't say career or mama,
And you really can't when you need to pay your bills.
Boo-boo.
It's a health crisis because families are having to, the majority of families I work with, they have had to quit their job due to caregiving. But they need to have some sort of income to be able to pay for, their well-being and their livelihood, but also for the care of their loved one, because newsflash, that's not cheap either.
I feel like I've seen something about, I guess there being some form of payment for family caregivers, but I don't know. Is that true? Are you aware of that or no?
There's
place, or did I dream it?
There's not enough. There's some programs and grants that are available. Usually there's short-term respite programs to give the caregiver a little bit of relief and a little bit of a break. Maybe if the caregiver is lucky, they could get on a block grant type of funding program that provides in-home aid services or adult day center services. But those programs sometimes have a long wait list as well. So like ongoing programs and services that people really need, it's not available. And if it is, it's typically private pay, where they are coming out of their own pocket, and especially for dementia caregivers. It's awful. People cannot afford $10,000 a month for long-term care. Nobody can. That's ridiculous.
God, so much to think about. So many things to be like, man, I need to be prepared. I need to know, like, what's my money gonna have to look like to do something like this? Like, do I need to have another savings account just in case? You know what I mean?
I'm so glad you said that, because I feel like older generations talking to us millennials often say, millennials, you need to save, save, save. And a lot of these programs that are available now may not be available for us when we get older, when we retire. But from our standpoint, save what? We came out of, a lot of us graduated straight into a recession. We still are recovering from that recession. We are the generation that has tons of student debt. So it's like, save what? So that is actually more scary for millennials to actually think about, wow, I want to plan to care, but how could I even financially be able to do that? Like, I don't know, even just hearing that, I hope caregivers even take a step back sometimes and really say, wow, I am doing the best I can with what I've got right where I am. And that's good, because I am making sure this person is alive and well.
To the person who is a caregiver right now, like, pat yourself on the back. You got the juice, because you're doing something that a lot of people can never imagine, can't even see it being possible to do. Like, you're doing it, and that whole guilt thing, like, am I doing enough, or could I have done this to prevent that? Like, all that honestly should just go out the window, because like you said, you're doing the best that you can and just roll with that.
Yep. And give yourself grace, because there are going to be days where you don't do it right, or you say something that you didn't mean to say, and you're not perfect. No one wants or expects you to be perfect. So don't expect that of yourself. Give yourself some grace.
All right, guys, I really hope that hearing Ashley and I talk about caregivers and highlighting millennial caregivers, since that is a very diverse group of individuals, was helpful for you. And I hope that you were able to take away something that you can apply to your life or make note of should anything come up. And just keep it moving. Ashley and I will continue to talk about millennial caregivers throughout the month of November, and we also have a surprise coming up as well, but you gotta stay tuned for all of that, So in the meantime, in between time, you be blessed, and thank you so much for watching.